I love mysteries. I love looking at the clues and putting the clues together, looking for patterns, and really just trying to figure out what is all this information telling me. Going through college, we never really looked at the child, we looked at methods. We looked at here's how you teach math, here's how you teach reading. And then I took one course that was all about looking at the child. So before we could plan anything for the child, we had to observe them. And I found that really intriguing because it became like this child's our mystery. I have to figure out what is this child thinking about. And so I was collecting those clues. And the coolest thing was the child was so engaged. When I did that for the first time, I think that was really a aha moment for me. It was a moment that changed my way of thinking.
Observation is one of our least used tools and one of our most powerful tools. And I just can't even talk enough about observation because it puts the teacher in a new role, which is the scientist. It allows us to put aside our emotions, our preconceived ideas, our beliefs even, and just record what's actually being said or done. After we make the observation, we reflect, and in our reflection, we're forced to think about the child because that's how we set up our observations, is to think about the child. When we're thinking about the child and trying to decide what it is we've learned, then we're using all of those developmental principles to make sense. Instead of our bias, or instead of our experience, or instead of our beliefs, we're first using the facts about children and we're using principles that guide their development. Another way to teach is using curriculum. And although the curriculum may be developed with principles in mind, if the teacher isn't thinking about principles, then she's just administering a curriculum. And that leaves the child out, even though the curriculum was thoughtfully developed. So teaching using child development principles means that the principles are at the forefront of the teacher's mind, and everything else falls in succession after that.
It may look like my teacher isn't busy, but that's because she worked so hard before we got here. She prepared our room so it was ready to help us learn.
So an example of this is, I was with a teacher the other day. She had just done an observation of a child. And in this observation, the child had taken Legos from a space where another child was working. And that's just the facts. In the reflection, the teacher who's new at thinking developmentally put, "I wonder why the boy was sneaky." And so the power of observation is that she has to change that question and eliminate from it her judgment and her values and her preconceived notions, and go to the development of a child and ask, what's the developmental imperative a child of this age has? So the question is, why is the child taking the Lego? What need is he fulfilling? What need does he have? Rather than the child is sneaky. And so now I can't approach the child to support their growth. I'm only supporting the child with judgment. I think that the familiar use of an observation is to evaluate and assess. The way we use observation is to study and explore, to create hypothesis, to see where a person is, a child, or in my case, I support teachers, so where's the teacher and where's her thinking?
Malaguzzi says that teaching is 1/3 certainty and 2/3 uncertainty. So child development principles give you the foundation to stand on, but it does not solve all problems. because there's always going to be a mystery. There's always going to be a question that you're trying to figure out. So we tell teachers all the time, everything is perfectly imperfect. So every situation, whether it turns out the way we expect it, or if we have to work on an idea a little bit longer in the classroom, that's perfectly imperfect because we're learning from it and we're growing. And that's the important part, is the learning. And I'm talking about the teacher as the learner as much as I'm talking about the child as the learner. It's the process that's important.
The benefit in thinking about children's developmental needs is just thinking itself. The old way of doing things is to have a planned out script. This is the curriculum, this is the philosophy, this is how we teach this. That doesn't require a lot of thought. It requires planning and execution, but it doesn't require contemplation. If school is anything, it's a place where we learn how to think. And in order for me to learn how to think as a student, I need to have a teacher who's thinking with me. That is about the power of thinking.